Hi, Clint Dickerson here with Windwalker Underground Gallery and Music School in beautiful Charlotte, Michigan. Coming here for lesson number 2. If you watched our first lesson, you learned about the fretboard, where all the notes were on the guitar, and that's going to take some time. So while you're learning that, we're going to keep moving, and I hope you're moving on with us, and I hope you enjoy what you're hearing. And if you need to at any time, please stop it, rewind it, and watch it again. So today we're going to talk about a lot of definitions. A lot of words are going to come up that we have to talk about. And I will try my best to take these words and really explain them to what they really are. Okay? First thing that you're going to hear, I'm sure you've probably heard people in conversation talk about it, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth, and that's called a key. Somebody will say like, oh, I sing this song in the key of G, or I sing this song in the key of A. Well, there's talking about the notes and the chords that are being used to play in that song. Okay? So, for example, somebody with a lower voice, like Johnny Cash or Josh Turner, might sing in a low E key, whereas somebody like Celine Dion or Mariah Carey might sing in a higher key, A, D, whatever. So depending on where they're at, and that's what a key is. But that doesn't explain much, does it? So you're probably still very confused. I was too. I used to think I knew what a key was, and then I'd look up the definition and realized I really didn't have much of a clue. So what the key is every song can be in any key that you want it to be. So you could sing a song in A, you could sing a song in B, you could sing a song in F, whichever key you want to. So I always tell my students here at Windwalker to think of the key at this point as a car key. What does a car key do? Well, a car key starts the car, right? Without the key won't start. So think of the music key as a key as well. It starts the music. It's the starting point of the scale. So today we're going to talk about what scales are. We're going to learn our first set of notes and chords in one key. And then once we learn it in one key, then later on in future lessons, I can show you how to transpose that into different keys. But for now, let's get started, and we're going to learn everything in one key called the key of G. Okay? So first things first, if it's a key like starting the car, then we know that if I'm singing a song or playing guitar in the key of G, that my first note in that scale is going to be what? G, yes. So the G is what starts the scale. That's the note that starts the scale. So we're going to learn today what's called the major scale. Some of you guys might remember it as the do-re-mi scale, if you've ever heard anybody sing the do-re-mis. Now, you can use any G on your fretboard. You can use this G, you can use the G down here, you can use the G on the D string right here, but I think that works best for this exercise is to use the open G on the G string right here, okay? So if you remember from lesson 1, we have E, A, D. The 4th string down would be the G string, okay? So there are 7 notes in our major scale, okay? We're going to start with G, and we're going to go through them right now, okay? So we've got G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G. If you counted 8, you are not wrong. We did hit 8, but 2 of them, we started on G, and we ended on G. So 2 of them are the same note. So there's technically 7 notes in your scale. And if that sounded familiar, we did that with the chromatic scale in lesson 1. We started on an E, we ended on an E. We started on an A, we ended on an A. The difference between the chromatic scale and the major scale is that the major scale highlights the 7 notes that sound well in that key. So there's going to be 7 notes that sound really good. Those are called relative notes. Just like your relatives that come for the holidays. They all are family. They all work well together. They get along together. There's 5 non-relative notes. So what the major scale does is it highlights those 7 notes that are going to be in the song. So we've got, again, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Most importantly that we want to learn is the actual pattern of this. With stringed instruments like guitar, we get lucky and the patterns never change. So once we learn these patterns, they can be used for other keys and other areas. And we can use that to learn a lot faster with different keys. So we're going to go through the scale again, and this time I'm going to show you the pattern of how to find these notes. So our first note is G. So whatever key we're in, that's the first note we're going to hit. We're going to skip a fret, and we're going to go to the second fret, which is the next note, A. We're going to skip the next note, which is A sharp, and we're going to go to B. So our first three notes are going to be G, skip one, A, skip one, B, we skipped one. This time when we go to the fourth note, the do, re, mi, fa, so to speak, when we get there, we're not going to skip. We're going to go straight to the C. All right, now we're back to skipping. So we're going to skip C sharp. We're going to hop over it and go to D. We're going to hop over that and go to E. We're going to hop over another fret and go to F sharp. And the very last movement from F sharp to G, we do not skip. We go straight to it. So that's how we can use a pattern to find our notes. So here it is all again. We're going to hit our G. We're going to skip a fret into our A. We're going to skip a fret into our B. We're not going to skip this time, straight to C. We're going to skip again over to D. We're going to skip again over to E. We're going to skip again over to F sharp. And on the very last one, we don't skip. We go straight to G. So if we're learning it by letter, we've got G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. If we're learning it by pattern, which we should learn it both ways to be a good guitar player, you're going to go G, skip one, don't skip, skip one, skip one, skip one, don't skip. One more time. Skip, skip, don't skip, 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 don't skip. So once you learn that pattern can be played anywhere. For example, if I want to use this high G on the bottom string here, can you hear that that's the same note? If you can't, what I like to do is I like to hum the note. And that will tell you it's the same note. Because sometimes the pitch will be so high or low that it's hard to tell that it's the same note. But if you hum it, it's easier to tell. So we're going to use this G note right here. We're going to play that same scale by using the pattern. And I want to show you that that pattern doesn't change no matter where you are on the guitar. So if I play my G, I'm going to skip a fret to A. I'm going to skip a fret to B. I'm not going to skip and go straight to C. I'm going to skip a fret and go straight to D. I'm going to skip a fret and go to E. I'm going to skip a fret and go to F sharp. And then I'm not going to skip on the very last one, and I'm going to go to G. So once again, the only thing that changed was where I started at. The actual pattern stayed the same. If I'm hitting here, both of my G's, both of my A's, I'm skipping the same amount of frets in between each one. So that's how you can find your other keys. For example, if I wanted to know the notes that were in my key of A, I could find my A note, and let's say I don't know my notes. I can use my pattern to find them. A, skip. Well, if I do my lines, like A sharp, B, so that's a B. Skip again, C sharp. I don't skip this time, so that's a D. This time I skip again, so it's an E. This time I skip again, so it's an F sharp. This time I skip again, so it's a G sharp. And this time is the last one I don't skip, A. So I just was able to teach myself the letters that are in my key of A by using that same exact pattern. Skip, skip, don't skip, 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 don't skip. Just by using that pattern, now I have the ability to find any notes in any key that I need. All right, so now we got that. We're going to go back to that G scale that we were learning because that's going to give us all the information. So a lot of people, let's say rock and rollers that want to be cool, which I was one of them, when they are learning, they don't want to use the major scale because they think it's kind of dorky. They say, well, I don't want to use a do, re, mi scale. But what they're missing out on is all of the information that that major scale gives you. It's not so much about needing to play it all the time, but it will tell you all the notes and all the chords that are in your key. So if you're learning a song on the fly and need to learn it right away, you'll automatically, if you know the key, you'll know what chords and what notes are possible to be in that song. So again, our scale goes G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Over here, we've actually labeled them by numbers. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 1 and 8 both being G's. So if you look, you'll see you got G as 1, A as 2, B as 3, C as 4, D is 5, E is 6, 7 is F sharp, and G again is 8. And that's the positioning that we're going to use to talk about notes and chords. All right, so we're at notes and chords. What's the difference between notes and chords? I get that question a lot in school. Okay, so anything that we've done so far on one string, this is the easiest way to teach this. If it's on one string, it's a note. So, for example, if I played something like, I'm playing individual notes. Okay, if I'm strumming a whole bunch of strings at one time, I'm playing a chord, okay? So if you want to think of chord as just a bundle, a bunch of different strings played at one time versus a note, which is a singular string. So a G note, for example, that's a G note. G chord, which we're going to get to in just a few minutes. G note, G chord. D note, D chord, D note, D chord, and so on and so forth. All right. There are two types of guitars that we're going to talk about today. And no, we're not going to talk about styles of music. We're not talking about country or rock or blues. We're not even talking about acoustic guitars like this one or electric guitars. We're going to talk about two types of playing on the guitar, and that is melody guitar, or what is known more today as lead guitar, and what's called rhythm guitar. Okay? The rhythm player generally uses primarily chords, which we just talked about are bundles of strings. We're going to learn a few of those today. The second guitar part is melody guitar, or you may have heard it referred as lead guitar, and they're going to be playing individual notes and primarily playing the melody lines of the song. So for example, if I was singing and playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, which just so happens to be my favorite jam, and if I was playing rhythm guitar, I would play the chords to it, and I would go, let's find the key there. We don't want to sound that bad. Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, and so on and so forth. If I was playing the melody line of the guitar, I would actually follow the part that you sing. So everybody that's sang Mary Had a Little Lamb before knows how the song goes. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to mimic that on the guitar. That's melody guitar, or what's known today as lead guitar. Okay? So we're going to talk about a little bit of both. Melody guitar is primarily using notes, like we just did. Rhythm guitar, again, is using primarily chords, which is remember this, a bundle, a group of notes put together. So our major scale, our do, re, mi scale, so to speak, is going to teach us what notes could be in the melody line of the song. For example, CCR's Bad Moon Rising, if it's in the key of G, it only uses the first 3 notes of the scale. Do, re, mi. Do, re, mi. So if I play it, it would go something like this. I only use 3 notes. And so my major scale showed me what my notes could be. Now it could be do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. But in this case, this song is a simpler, easier song, and it only used the do and the re and the mi, the first 3 notes of the scale, which ironically is the same 3 notes as Mary Had a Little Lamb. So those 2 songs are really the same 3 notes, just played in what's a different pattern. Or the major scale shows us, for rhythm guitar players, what chords to play in the song. Okay, so if I'm in the key of G, and I look at my scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G, those are the chords that could possibly be in my song. Now, are all those chords in the song? Probably not. There could be a song with all those chords in there, but most often than not, it's only 3, 4, 5, or 6 chords, up to 6 chords that are in the song. So that part you still have to figure out on your own. Which ones are they using? So what the major scale does there is it eliminates the chords that would not work in that key. So if I'm singing a song in the key of G, I know that I've got 7 possible chords that will work with that key, and I've got 7 possible notes that will work in that key, depending on if I'm playing the rhythm section or the melody section. Okay, so moving on, we're going to learn our first chord today. I know I'm excited for you. I'm pretty sure that you're going to be excited as well. If we're going to be in the key of G, it would only make sense that our first chord that we're going to learn is G. So I'm going to show you a G chord right now. First and foremost, how I kind of gauge this G chord is I hold up my peace sign. If anybody that's watching right now, you should make a peace sign right now. Peace. See what I'm doing here? All right, if you bring that up, your middle finger should go on the top string of the 3rd fret. So the E string, 1, 2, 3, 3rd fret. And my pointer finger should go on the A string, the 2nd string down, on the 2nd fret. So it looks like this. Okay? Now, the hard part, the tricky part, is we got to get this ring finger all the way down into the same fret as the middle finger, but all the way on the bottom string. So the little E string. So how I always remember my G, and we're going to have a chart up here that you can look at, but how I remember my G is that my middle finger and my ring finger are in the same fret. They're just in opposite E's. So one's on the top of the 3rd fret and one's on the bottom of the 3rd fret. And then my pointer finger goes here on the A string, 2nd fret. And we're just going to simply take our, if you have a guitar pick already, you can take your guitar pick and just strum that. Or if you don't have a guitar pick and you prefer to use your thumb, you can take your thumb and you can strum that chord right now. Now, as you're strumming that, you may hear something more like this. That's okay. Those noises are coming from one of 3 things. Okay? The first one is going to be that you're not pushing the string down hard enough. Especially with acoustic guitars, sometimes that can be, at first, a real challenge. So I always tell people not to worry about that so much. You're going to build strength in your hand the more you play. It's kind of like running a race. If I don't run very often and I go and try to run a race, I'm not going to get very far. But if I exercise every single day, then eventually I'll be able to get farther and farther. Same thing with your hand strength. Eventually you might have a string or two that sound like this. That means the string's not being pushed down all the way. Another reason why it could be sounding like that is if you look at these metal fret lines, these lines are dividing the sound. You can see that by if I play this note here, and it changes when I cross over that line. Do, 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 do. Here comes Jaws, right? Okay. So if you put your finger on that fret line itself, the guitar doesn't know which note to hit. So it might end up coming out like this. Okay? So far we've got, you might not be pushing down hard enough. We could be hitting a fret line, which happens very often in the beginning when you're learning. And then the third thing that could be is this happens to me a lot, okay? Everybody's hands are different. Some people are going to have long, skinny hands. Some people are going to have all kinds of different hands. I was blessed with short, fat hands. So when I play, a lot of times, one of my other fingers might touch another string. So for example, my B string is supposed to be wide open in my G chord. But every once in a while, my finger might hit it that's not supposed to hit it, and you might get something like that. Okay, so the three things to look out for when you're learning your chord is, are you pushing down hard enough? Is your finger touching one of these fret lines? And is another part of your hand touching something that it shouldn't be? Those three happen a lot. So those are the things you're looking out for. And if you've got all those three things, eventually, after you build that hand strength up, your G chord is going to sound like this. All right, moving on from our G chord, we're going to learn one more chord in this lesson. I don't want to overload anybody with too many chords. Our second chord is going to be what's called an E minor. Okay, and right now we don't need to know what E minor means, so just know it's a different name. Okay, an E minor. So we're going to go from this G, and we're going to go to an E minor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my pointer finger right exactly where it's at. If you look at my pointer finger here, my pointer finger is hitting this A string on the second fret. That is necessary as well for the E minor. So what we want to do is, as we're learning chords and as we're maneuvering between chords, is we want to be able to find those pivot points, is what I like to call them. If there's a finger that doesn't move between chords, we want to leave that stationary. And what I mean by that is if this finger is going to be here for the next chord, there's no point in me taking my hand off to make the next chord, because now I'm doing more work than I need to be. So if you watch carefully, here's my G chord. To get to my E minor, I'm going to simply leave my pointer finger on, take these two off, and I'm going to move my middle finger underneath my pointer finger on the D string. So now I'm playing the same fret, A and D string, if you can see that. And I'm going to strum that, and that's my E minor. Okay. So we have a G chord. And now we're going to use our pointer finger as a pivot to our E minor chord. So in theory, our pointer finger should never leave the guitar. Even if I go back to my G, I should be able to pivot back to my G, back to my E minor, without my pointer finger ever leaving the guitar. Why is that important? Because if you're doing something fast, you want the least amount of movement possible. Okay? If you take that finger off, now you have to reposition it, when all you would have to do is leave it there and pivot. Okay? So our G, E minor, G, E minor. So for this lesson, we're going to give you those two chords, and we're going to go on to lesson 3. So take your time with those lessons. Please feel free to watch lesson 3 when you feel like you're ready. We're going to learn some more chords. We're going to learn some more definitions of some words. But remember the 3 things when you're making your chords. Make sure you're pushing down hard enough. Make sure that your fingers are not touching the fret lines. And make sure that there's no other part of your hand that's touching strings that it shouldn't be. Those are the 3 things that's going to give you those type of noise. So we want nice, clean chords. And don't forget to pivot using your pointer finger between your G chord and your E minor. So this is Clint from Windwalker Underground Gallery. Thanks for watching. Please tune in to our future lessons. Have a great day.